Pollution, pollution in our environment. I'm going to put a link below to a Bernie Sanders video discussion with folks out in rural America, somewhere between suburbia and farmlands. Live like that in Michigan. So their drinking water's polluted, basically. There's three types of pollution, three general terms. There's chemical, biological, and nuclear. Those are three distinct kind of vectors of pollutions that we've identified, how to group these things into. Pollutions, in one way, are defined in a book in America, anyway, called the Beers 7 now, I believe, that rates these things and gives them harm indicators, and then you throw them into equations and you learn the odds of somebody getting something. And they're very small odds, yet it happens. So knowing something happened is interesting. It means something. But so those three pollution vectors, I speak quite a bit to radiological pollution, and this is a problem in groundwater contamination in specific areas where heavy industry has played. So there are lots of ways drinking water gets contaminated. Heavy metals, that would fall under chemical pollution. But radioactive fallout is a lot of heavy metals. Those lanthanides and actinide things on that periodic table of elements. So it's not that we don't know about these things. We hear about them in conversations, we see it in the news. It's when it becomes gross, just in your face, that something gets done about it. Maybe you saw the slow motion reaction to Flint, which should have been a disaster declaration, because the cost of getting the lead out of babies is infinite right now. We don't know how to do it. We can help, maybe. And it wasn't just black babies or Latino babies. It was all babies that drank the water. So someone in the Bernie video noted Allentown, Pennsylvania. I lived next door in Bethlehem. Huge stories about lead in drinking water, because those old coal mines, those old ore mines, some of them had lead acid batteries dumped in them, enough volume to be counted, and it contaminated drinking water. But the lead also, as an acid, leaches out other elements from the soil and brings it along with. So besides the lead, other elements become involved. Now you're still talking all chemical agents. Then you get into biological elements. The problem with the chemicals is they feed biology. So the nitrates off the field feed some things that might or might not be good for you. The runoff from the swales, the farming pig swales and cows and all of that, builds up excess nutrients, and something in nature is going to try and consume that, because that's how nature works. We consume as much as we can and multiply and go forth. So these things, these elements are out there. These compounds, these chemicals, they do different things. There's a chemical called dioxin, was sprayed across many dirt roads in America, is in oils. Some people weren't aware, some people didn't care, but it got out of hand. So that one's just another story. That's a story about North Carolina, where I lived and walked many a dirt road. So Houston, Houston Ship Channel, huge area, a labyrinth of chemical plants in between subdivisions. Is there, where else are there drinking water issues? The testing for this is not easy. It's not one test, might not be one lab. I just spoke of three different vectors: nuclear, chemical, and biological. Biological would go to the CDC or someplace like that. Chemical, same. I don't know. So who does all this stuff? Who looks? Who monitors? That takes people and time and processes and systems. And because your water is my water, we're polluting each other's, and we can do better. A note to filter users: if you filter your water, there's a fact of filtering, of filtration, of loading. At some point, the filter becomes saturated for some specific elements and will stop filtering for them. It has to do with binding and the amount of space in the filter and how much garbage goes by. So changing your filter might be too late. How many filters did you store in your hidey hole? That's the challenge of preppers even. How can you can't remove some of these things from water, period, and we can't afford to. You as a consumer can't afford to have a filtration system that requires special filters only manufactured by a few companies on the planet. When you come out of your hidey hole, that company's probably not going to be there anymore. So we got to do better. Don't have a choice.